Hey English learners, welcome to ESO English YouTube channel and this A2 English listening practice video. Today I'm going to talk about some different customs in the US and in Mexico. I've lived in both of these countries and I have a lot of experience with the different customs in these different cultures. So hopefully you find this topic interesting. Many people like hearing about my experience living in Mexico because it's interesting to live abroad and experience these differences in culture and in customs. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Okay, let's talk about some different customs in the US and in Mexico. The first thing I want to talk about is meals. Eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. These are meals. Let's talk about the different meal times in the US and in Mexico. In the US, lunch is usually between 12 and 1 p.m., usually. And it's usually not the biggest meal of the day. So sometimes people eat a lot, but often it's not a heavy meal. It's a light meal. So perhaps someone might just eat a sandwich, for example. But people can also eat a hot meal, maybe. It depends on the person. But lunch usually isn't the biggest meal of the day. And sometimes people eat lunch at their office while they're working or in their car on their lunch break when they have a break from work. So this is different in Mexico. In Mexico, lunch is later in the day. It's usually between 2 and 4 p.m., so maybe around 3 p.m. on average. And it's usually the biggest meal of the day. This is usually when people eat the most. People might go to restaurants around this time. So you see a lot of people at restaurants at 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. This is very typical. It's common. In the U.S., you don't see as many people at restaurants at that time because that's too late for lunch in the U.S. and it's too early for dinner, right? In the U.S., dinner is typically around 6:30, 7 p.m. Dinner is usually served around that time. And dinner is usually the biggest meal of the day. This is when people eat the most. And when I was a kid, I always ate dinner with my family, my parents and my sister. And we ate dinner almost every day at the same time. We ate dinner around 6:30 p.m. and we sat down together and my mom cooked a big meal for us. This was the most important meal of the day for me and my family when I was growing up. And this is when restaurants are the busiest. You see many people at restaurants around dinner time in the US. In Mexico, dinner is later. It's usually between 8 and 10 p.m. maybe. And usually it's not too heavy. It's not a really big meal because lunch is typically the biggest meal. And for example, my wife's family often eat sweet foods for dinner. Not everyone does that, but they often eat snacks and sweet foods for dinner. But there are many different things people might eat for dinner in Mexico. And it's a little strange for many of us to think about eating dinner that late. It's hard to imagine eating dinner at 9 o'clock, for example. That's not typical in the U.S. All right, let me talk about another custom, the custom of arriving on time or arriving late. In the U.S., most people think that it's normal to arrive on time for events, parties, appointments, etc. They don't want to be late. It's not good to be late. In the U.S., of course, sometimes people arrive late. It's not always a problem. But in general, people think that it's good to arrive on time to things. In Mexico, this is less strict. Many people arrive late to different events or appointments, meetings, parties, and often the other people don't get mad. And I remember arriving at a birthday party in Mexico that started at 6 p.m., or they told us that it started at 6 p.m., and we arrived at 6 p.m., and nobody was there. And the host, the person who was having the party, they weren't even ready for us to come inside yet. And this shows the difference in culture. In the US, if someone says that a birthday party is going to start at 6 p.m., it's going to start at 6 p.m. If you show up at 6, you arrive at 6, that's normal. But in Mexico, it's normal for people to arrive late, and sometimes very late, to parties. I remember that at that party, people came at like 7 o'clock p.m. or later even, but the party was supposed to start at 6 p.m. So some people like when a culture is less strict about arriving on time. Some people like punctuality, meaning they like when people are on time. People have different opinions about this, and you probably prefer one or the other. I like being on time, but that's just me. All right, one other custom I want to talk about is greetings. When you say hello and goodbye to people. In Mexico, it's common to give people a kiss on the cheek. Usually you don't touch your lips to their skin, but you make the sound. You touch your cheeks together. And women do this with other women. Men do it with women as well. And people do this even if you don't know the person very well. Even if you don't know them that well, you probably still greet them with a kiss on the cheek. It depends. Sometimes you don't do this, but I did this many times when I lived in Mexico. This was new for me. It was something that I had to adapt to when I lived in Mexico, because in the US, this is not a common greeting. Some people do this, but usually it's people who they're very close with. And typically older people might do this. It's not common to see young people give a kiss on the cheek. I don't remember seeing that in the US. So this is not a common greeting in the US, and so it can be a little strange when someone from the US goes to Mexico and people greet them like this. You have to realize that this is a very different custom in the two countries. In the US, it's common to give people a handshake in some situations, or it's also common to give a hug. Different types of hugs, depending on the situation. It depends on how well you know the other person. If you know them really well and you're really close to them, you might have a different type of greeting than someone who you don't know well at all. There are different types, different ways to greet people in the US. But normally people don't give each other a kiss, especially if they don't know each other well. But it depends, like I said. There are many other examples of customs that are different in the US and in Mexico, but those are a few that I wanted to talk about. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. I know it was probably challenging for some of you. I don't only use A1 language in my A1 listening practice videos because the purpose of an A1 listening practice video is to challenge you and help you get to the next level, to